Dr. Joy Rademene Asonye is a distinguished figure in the Nigerian media landscape, boasting a robust 12-year tenure marked by a commitment to climate advocacy, sustainability, and social equity. As the president of the Female Journalists Network Nigeria and an esteemed member of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, NIPR, she is a staunch proponent of giving a platform to marginalized voices. In her current role, Dr. Asonye is the producer and host of Joy Asonye Live on KaftanTV, and she also anchors Aso Morning on Aso Radio and TV. Her programs are distinguished by thought-provoking discussions on critical national issues and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Armed with a bachelor's degree in Sociology from the University of Abuja, a diploma in mass communication, and comprehensive training in media development, Dr. Asonye infuses her professional endeavors with scholarly insight and creative innovation. Beyond her journalistic pursuits, Dr. Asonye is an unwavering advocate for women's and youth empowerment, leveraging her influence to facilitate substantial societal transformation. Known for her integrity and narrative prowess, she has emerged as a reliable and inspiring presence in the Nigerian media sphere.
Welcome to One-on-One with CEOs and Paysetter, and I'm your host, Grace Damsa. And with me on set, my co-anchor is Mr. Thomas Rabida. All right, One-on-One is brought to you by Bridge Africa Media Network, where we showcase Africa to the world. We showcase our beauty, investment opportunity, to the world. And if you're a business owner, a paysetter, a CEO, and you want to advertise or you want us to boost your business, we are here for you. You can contact the following the contacts are displayed right there on your screen. So, Dr. Asonye, your journalism career spans over a decade, I believe. So, can you just share a defining moment that significantly shaped your journey in this field?
I would say, when you're in a career that has several experiences, where you have several experiences, there's no one experience or interaction that gave you the aha moment, the defining moment. However, it's been an interesting journey. I always knew I wanted to be a journalist. I mean, I was one of those children growing up that wasn't sure whether to be a journalist or a lawyer or a social welfare personnel. I was one of those confused children. But one thing was for sure, I wanted to tell the stories of underserved people. And I remember reading about a lot of true crime stories. And when I got into the university and could not study law for some reason, I just could not get law, even though at the time I think I had the cutoff mark and all. It was a no-brainer. The next best thing to go for me was mass communication, was to go into this journalism that I had always wanted. And I always say that my father's interest in being abreast with what's going on has shaped my love for the media. So I think it's my father. The defining moment is my father, who would go have drinks with his friends, but as he's leaving, he's asking you to watch the 9 o'clock news and tell him what they say. So that as he's taking you to school the next morning, you have to be telling him, okay, so the governor of this state, so this is what happened. And yeah, that's exactly how I got to love journalism. But I didn't know that with journalism, I could still be talking about the voices of the underserved communities. I thought I had to be a lawyer. But when law didn't work, I didn't pursue it. I didn't wait. I knew journalism was the next step. And in my course of the many years I have practiced journalism, everything you can think of, from um, reporting in uh, during attacks with the tear gas. Sometimes you go through the work reports, and you're like, this is why I love my job. If I'm not here to report it, if I'm not here to tell this story, and nobody may get to know the enormity of what just happened here. So there's no one defining moment for me. It's been series of very interesting experiences.
Yeah, I must say that's a very risky and very should I say so much adventure. That career is quite risky and it has so many adventure as well. Well, so as president of the Female Journalists Network Nigeria, what key initiative have you led to empower and advance women in journalism?
Several, really. I was like a kid in a candy store with what to do when it comes to female journalists in Nigeria. I noticed, and this is not me overflogging the many issues when it comes to workplace disparity among female workers. It happens in our newsroom a lot. So the reason why I really wanted to go into, I want I wanted to start this organization, this network of female journalists, is to ensure that we collectively speak against the inequalities that often happen in our newsrooms, where certain roles are not given to anyone, certain individuals, especially the female folks, because it is expected that, oh, you may not, you may be qualified for it, but you would throw tantrums. Women are going to throw tantrums halfway into this project. You may say you have a family issue and all of that. Those stereotypes, yes, they do affect. We have not as much work. So there are very many challenges that the women face in the media sector. We don't get to say it, but very often you see us constantly talking about the issues. We're constantly talking about the issues that everyone else faces except ourselves. And another thing that made me, what I have been doing with the Female Journalist Network is to ensure capacity building for female journalists, especially with this new landscape of social media seeping really strongly into the mainstream media. A lot of us woke up and realized, who am I? What can I do to still be valuable, even though I am in the mainstream sector? So we build capacity. We have tech trainings for female journalists. Nothing irritates me. I say this all the time, that when I go into a newsroom or I'm communicating with my friends and they say, no, 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 the men tech is rocket science. And I always say that rocket science has been figured out. So I wanted us to change that. I wanted strong women in the media who can face their counterparts and grow and thrive in the sector without the fear of, oh, I don't know tech, I don't know how to be contemporary, I don't know how to understand what's going on in the media landscape. I must say also that we have a lot of very strong female journalists across Nigeria, some of whom I would forever thank for the contributions they have brought into the media landscape. And then the third reason why we have the Female Journalist Network and the things we have been doing around that network is to ensure that the voices of women in underserved communities are amplified. A couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, really, I had a talk and I raised it with female journalists. I mean, we have convergence once in a while. And I said, listen, guys, look at the news. Very, very reputable media organizations, credible media organizations, they have highlighted what I call inconsequential stories like Bobrisky did this. And look at how small it is. Look at the story of a girl who was raped by a certain individual. The story was very small, but because we have started sensationalizing our news. That is what sells, unfortunately. But as female journalists, as women who hope to have children and daughters, we must not let these voices be drowned by this new wave of the kind of sensational reporting that we often have, the emotional reporting that we always have. We must stand out and say, you know what, if it affects one woman in the society, it affects all of us. And so we must be intentional about ensuring that we put these voices in the media, we put it in the news. If there are certain individuals who ensure that I would call it inconsequential. I see a lot of stories in mainstream media that I say, how does this help a growing child, a young person listening to the news, watching the news, reading the news? How does it help? So it's a network of ladies who want to be intentional about what we give out there. It also matters to us that our image, the Nigerian image, it represents us. We are resilient, strong, beautiful people, a nation with dynamic cultures and colors, and we are the most hospitable people. I've traveled in certain countries in the world where you can't even stop to ask anybody a question. You don't see that in the media, but it's true. The minute you leave Africa, it's tough. You want to stop to ask a question, and the person is already very defensive, very suspicious of you. Not only because you're a stranger, but because look at your color. So if we in Africa, if we in Nigeria do not tell our story and tell them the beautiful and the hospitable people that we are, who will? So that's those event initiatives and programs that we've been doing. We do empowerment as sometimes, but above everything, we ensure that there is capacity building for female journalists in the network.
The Female Journalists Network Nigeria FJNN cordially invites you to the International Women's Day Conference and the step down of the 69th session of the Commission on the Status of Women 2025. Theme: For All Women and Girls. Right, Equality, Empowerment. Date: March 25, 2025. By 11 a.m. Venue: Nigerian Army Resource Center, Abuja.
OIC Solar is the best and trusted solar company.
OIC Solar. We do solar for your home, solar for your office, solar for your schools, street lightings and more at OIC Solar. OIC Solar.
OIC Solar is built on quality, durability. A top-notch solar company for your office, homes, schools and more.
OIC Solar. You don't need to worry. We got you covered at OIC Solar. OIC Solar. OIC Solar.
Welcome to Bridge Afrique magazine's official site, the ultimate link you need in order to understand what it takes to do business in Africa, the land to which all roads in the modern business world lead. Every business sector in the world is rooted in Africa, directly or indirectly. Mama Africa, the cradle of mankind, has always been the source of life and illumination to the rest of the world.
Through this magazine, we show you the beauty of Mama Africa and the diversity of the potential opportunities that await you as an investor, a tourist, or simply an explorer. The core team at Bridge Afrique is made up of young, dynamic African professionals residing in Africa as well as out of Africa in other continents. We work in close collaboration with partners all around the world to bring the latest information.
Our goal is to be a link to an emerging Africa, the new hotspot for business deals and all sorts of investments. In the business world of today, all roads lead to Africa, and we are proud to be the bridge. Relax and enjoy the fun as it wows you with all the information you have never read before in other magazines. Pray along with us and feel free to comment all your results via this medium.
This is really applaudable for you to, well, I see that a very young woman, and for you to be able to pioneer these things means there's so much inside of you, and the fact that you have these things to want to give out, in the sense that you want to stand up and be a voice, is really applaudable. Really applaudable. I believe you can hear me.
Very well.
All right. Okay, now. So, what do you consider the most? I know you said a little about it. What do you consider the most challenging, pressing challenges facing journalism in Nigeria today, and what strategic measure can be taken to address them?
I would say capacity building. We are in a landscape, media landscape, where everyone is a journalist, actually. Everyone is a journalist. And with this wave of social media and no regulation, misinformation, disinformation, and all sorts, it threatens this industry that's supposed to have principle. It scares me, I tell you, where AI is going. I attended an international conference where they were talking about the regulation of AI as it affects privacy, copyright, and all that. So if I can sit here and I am cloned, and some application, some software can clone me, clone my voice, clone my gestures. It scares me. And if we have to fact check, we are beginning to have a trench of journalists who are practicing but are not necessarily trained in the sector. And so the issue of fact checking comes in, and we struggle with that. A lot of journalists, in spite of all the trainings we've had, do not even know how to fact check. You see recently a lot of mainstream media, credible media organizations that you and I would have trusted to say that's the media that you would not make a mistake, so to speak. But we still see those situations where they have to apologize later. Why? Because some individual has posted something they felt, we can put online, which are necessarily not true, often not true. But it's online, it's trending, and so we get into the fray. We join the fray. A lot of us join the fray. We publish it. We report around that story. So my biggest challenge when I look at the media landscape today is the unregulated activities in the social media, and the fact that we do not have a proper or cutthroat laws that particularly talk about misinformation, disinformation. I know that we're doing a lot when it comes to that, but we have the laws. I think the problem now is implementation. And to what end do you say this is infringing on somebody's rights? If you clone me, if you clone my gestures, you clone my voice, you clone my face, you clone everything, and you put it online, and you spew whatever you want using my voice and my gestures and everything, what's the name of that kind of crime? So we need to have a proper regulation that not just stops punitive measures being meted on these individuals, but we also need more from our government. The communication ministry should do more. The NOA, the Nigerian Orientation Agency, should do more in ensuring that people take responsibility for what they post, what they do in the media. We just finished the 2023 general elections, and you saw the kind of electioneering we had. A lot of us could not even be serious as to the issues on ground. We could not it wasn't an ideal situation, so to speak, where issues were being criticized and trashed. It was more or less is a campaign of calumny. Everybody just came, wrote what they wanted. A lot of them false. I had saw a video of that was completely false. That video was of one of the political parties. The voices were cloned, and what they didn't say was what was recorded until the real picture and the real video. And we saw several of such. And I asked myself, where is this going to? Because we saw mainstream media take it up and then apologize later. So we need more, when we need a lot. As it concerns the regulation of AI, as it concerns privacy laws, and we need more advocacy. Do not post if you have not fact checked. And I'm happy that even Nigerians have developed fact checking tools. It is very exciting to know that you can fact check from wherever you are. There are several tools. There are several tools. So yeah, so those are the things that really scare me when it comes to the media. It is really challenging to understand what is true. Mischievous people must be punished for it. We need to have people punished for those kind of activities where without thoughts, they just put anything there. So it's really scary. And journalists who practice, have to stay abreast with this point so that they will know how to also fact check, not apologize later. So very often it's only when the harm has been done and the person cries foul or threatening a lawsuit that you say, oh, we got it wrong, we didn't. We can avoid all of that. So this all regulated the uncertainty in this new media landscape is the most challenging, and we all have to, come together, do what we can to ensure that it doesn't mess up the entire idea of true journalism.
Colleague, my co-anchor, has a few questions to ask us.
Okay.
Please, sir, Mr. Thomas,
Okay.
go ahead, please.
All right. So it's can you hear me? It's been amazing, ma'am. I mean, I've been listening to you speak all those while. It's really interesting getting to hear from you and
No, it's not
being
so
on the
much.
other side as well. I've learned a whole lot just listening to you speak for over 20 minutes now. So this actually is my own question from my own end here. I mean, I've seen you've shared insights in line with your journey so far, and how you as well fell in love with journalism, I must say, is really, really commendable. All right. And the challenges as well you've been facing so far. So I'm actually going to be asking, in line with where you are currently, all right, what actually I would say, or if I'm to, how do I put it now? I know so well there are so many ways you've been speaking, actually being more like a voice, not just for yourself, but as well in so many for so many other persons. My question here now is, you've been a vocal advocate, right, for social justice, right? How do you ensure that that's marginalized voices or marginalization in line with you actually being a vocal voice for so many persons? How do you ensure that there's a strategic measure to actually measure, or a strategic measure you can actually take to help you address all of that?
Yes, I got what your question was. I was saying that all I am is a journalist, and I know the strength that journalism has when it comes to shaping positively societal the society. So I use what I have. I'm not a politician. I may not have the position that ensures policies are made, but I can tell you that I can change policies in government if I find out that they are not people-centric. And so it is the voice that I have that I use for the advocacy. Yes, and there are several success stories. I don't know if you remember recently the story. it was released by the the Nigerian, is it custom or aviation, where it was said that women have to get some sort of pass from their husbands before they can travel outside the country. I don't remember that. We came together and ensured we stopped that kind of policy. What you're saying is that I cannot travel until I have a say so from my husband. I am not a child. I am a full-fledged adult. Not to mention there are a lot of women who may be traveling to run away from this same man you are sending me to go get approval for. So there are several reasons why any child who is 17 or 18 should be able to move as it pleases her. I am an African woman that understands how women are perceived. Unfortunately, I'm from Cross River. Unfortunately for that kind of policy. I'm from where strong women, I grew up watching a lot of strong women. You don't stop. If you go to our Cross River State political landscape, you see that women are thriving. This disparity we record in other parts of the country is not as bad in the South South, it's not as bad in the Cross River State. So imagine, sometimes a lady shared a story as to she was at work and somebody who was supposed to travel failed, and she was the only one who had a visa to the UK. And the organization was like, oh, well, you are next to travel. Before she didn't see her husband because she needed to run home, quickly pick her bag and pack up. She was telling her husband on the phone that I have to travel. As a man, this happens to you in the corporate world. This happens to men all the time. Why don't you give your wife a break if that has to happen? This is but one policy that Female Journalist Network took upon ourselves and said no to. We said no, and you saw that they shifted ground. So there are several of such policies. So like I said, it's only the voice that we have that we can use. I am not a lawmaker to say that I will go change the laws. But if it is not people centric, if it is not one that shows that benefits the woman, we would speak out. And trust me, I always say, if a woman joins head with other women, the society is going to be where we tell it to be. Don't forget that we are wives, we are mothers, we are sisters, and we have innate strength that we will not explore. And what is that realization I want a lot of women to come out with? Realizing that the strength you have, you won't even be asking for equality from a man because, come on, you will move mountains if you plan on it. So it is the voice that we have that we leverage to change societal misnomers.
Wow, wow, that was so. I mean, listening to you speak, I could relate to some of the things you said. I actually had, I was in Calabar at some point in my life. I schooled in the University of Calabar, so I could relate to a few things because I visited some local governments in Cross River State. So thank you so much. That was very explicit. Right, before I'll move on.
I said women in Cross River are the kingmakers. That is the instances where they do not want to.
Exactly.
They do not want to. Yes, they do not want to be in power. They sit back and you must consult. I can tell you there are several women that you must consult. You will consult, otherwise you won't win election.
True, very true. All right, so we'll move on to my next question. Can you highlight a particular project or story that holds deep significance for you as a person, and as well that really impacts or that has impacted your life? Or what impact actually that particular thing has in regards to your life?
Wow, there are several. There are several. I'm not even sure which one to go into right now, but yeah, we often look up stories of societal injustice. There's one that happened a couple of months, sometime last year, a couple of months ago, still on that, of a police officer that flagged down. Okay, what actually happened was there was a near hit A gentleman was almost in his home here in Abuja, somewhere in Kubwa. He was almost hit by a bike. He was driving, the bike almost hit him. There was an altercation. Now, this happened around 8 p.m. in the evening. So the bike and the man came out as usual. They were having that altercation while he almost hit me and all of that. In that, as they were arguing and all that was going on, the police came. When the police came, because the bike man does not want to relate to the police. Of course, you two will not blame him because of what he must have experienced. He said, okay, you know what? We no longer want issues. I don't want issues any longer. I am out. I'm not angry again. The man rode away. But the police insisted that the gentleman in the vehicle joined them to the station. And the man said, you're asking me to join you, but the person I have an altercation with he just rode away. They started arguing. The next thing, one of the policemen removed the tear gas, whatever, and shot it directly to this man's face. The canister was stuck in his face, in his eyes. Now, that story taught me in ways you cannot understand. This man unfortunately passed away from that experience. I mean, you can understand when they shoot this thing off, how high it goes, but this one was direct hit on this man's face. So recently, of recent, that's like the kind of stories that I cannot help. I did a report, I went to see the family, I did investigation, I followed the story to the PRO, the policeman the trigger happy policeman was arrested and all that. We are ensuring that justice is served for the family. These are stories that happen all the time. When we say social justice, I'm telling you, you can't help yourself. These things happen in society. I read a story recently, a member of the female journalist network just forwarded it to me this evening of someone who was attacked in his family by particularly bad, but he was attacked by allegedly the man was stabbed, but overcame these bandits. In the course of the fight, the other one died, passed away. He's sentenced to death. This is him trying to defend himself, but again, is allegedly. These are stories we are investigating to ensure that justice is served in our society. So, are you saying I should have died? It seems like whatever this man did, that attack sealed his fate. He was going to die nonetheless, either by the hands of the bandit or by the hands of the institution that should protect him. So these are stories we must investigate, come to the end of it to be sure that an innocent person will not undo to be. So I don't know where to start. These stories are a lot. Am I going to tell you about a young girl who was raped by the uncle that was staying in the home, and unfortunately, pastor has come in to discuss after the mother of the child raised the alarm to say, my husband's brother is molesting my child. So we get these stories a lot. We are journalists. Where are we going to be able to fund trying to report on these cases, follow them through to logical ends that would ensure justice is done? If you and I know the powers that we hold as journalists, to tell you, I would tell this story to the world. Your family and your children and your children's children will understand who you have always been. If we know the strength that we carry, blue envelope, green envelope, brown envelope will not even give you half. And there are tools. I keep saying, when I hear people say, there's no money in journalism, it's true. But it is only because you have decided not to be innovative. Your mates are making and tell it to such a way that you make money. There are grants available. There are a lot of organizations across the world that want you to tell certain stories. Are you a journalist in climate reporting? Are you a journalist in social justice reporting? Are you a journalist in economy? There are organizations that would pay you to tell the stories, not necessarily in Nigeria, but why are you thinking always charge every journalist I find, man or woman? You can do so much more with the powers that you have. Get the certifications necessary. If you need to be known for something, so that when you wake up and stand up and speak about this, you will speak from the place of information, intelligence, and knowledge. But we cannot sit back and say, "Oh, I was paid a certain amount by this organization. It only means that I cannot afford. I can't. The journalism is bad. Your mates are making a lot of money. So yeah." That's what I would say. There are several stories that I am happy to have stumbled on, stories that have kept me awake at night, and I'm like, oh my goodness, which one do I embrace? Which one do I let go? There are several. I don't even know which one to tell you and which one.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Getting to listen to you speak, I mean, I can only imagine. I can only imagine the things happening, especially in this part of the world. Thank you so much for that insight. So I'll move on to my next question. With your academic background, actually, in sociology, how has that shaped your perspective, all right, as a journalist today? How has your background shaped your perspective and approach as well to journalism, particularly, I would say, in storytelling and as well audience engagement? How has that actually helped you align with your perspective?
Tolerance. If there's anything sociology has taught me, it is that everyone's opinion is not necessarily bad. Everyone has a school of thought that is born out of environment that the person grew up in and several other factors. So tolerance, what it taught me was tolerance. Even when you hear, sometimes I'm interviewing politicians or public office holders, and I'm listening to them discuss what drives them, and I'm like, seriously, okay, this is what you think your people need? In this 21st century where nations across the world are building hubs, nations across the world are ensuring that their students or their constituents are positioned for the jobs of the future. Look at how beautiful Nigeria is. Look at the energies among young people. Look at the skills among young people. And you talk to a public office holder who has an opportunity to shape the futures of these young people, and he tells you, distributed notebooks for my constituents, and I'm like, seriously, that is what you want the world to hear you say. So if there's anything my background, my educational background has helped is tolerance, the patience. It takes everything to sit there and calmly ask him, calmly direct him to, okay, do you think, and then there are several times when in the course of women advocacy, women rights advocacy, you see a woman whose right has obviously been trampled on, and I tell you, you want to get into this business and say, you know what, this is absolutely wrong, we are going to take it over, and they're like, nope. My pastor has said, my imam called me, my traditional ruler has called me, and we have settled this, and sometimes this thing happens to minors that are traumatized. There's nothing that is worse than a minor being taken advantage of and not feeling like justice was done. And I keep telling people, trauma, we don't have trauma centers. We don't have enough. We don't even know, as we are here, that you could ask a shrink. I had a conversation earlier with a female journalist, the vice president of the network. I was like, we push down a lot every time we happen. Something must kill a man. It is what it is. We push it down and leave. These are traumas that people are facing. And if somebody's right is obviously trampled on, and she tells you, I live and for God. I don't want people to know. My pastor has called me and my imam has called me. We have settled. Sometimes law enforcement tells you, it don't happen now, make we go settle. In this age and time, and we are brewing, we are nurturing these ills if we do not face it head on. I am all for shame them, name and shame them. I'm all for name and shame them because I know in society that is the only way we could see some sort of sanity. And the truth is, if you and I do not stand up for what is right, it would always linger. The reason why other parts of the country is as seemingly structured. I can also argue that part, but we don't have the time. Seemingly structured is because they know that if you walk in here, if you walk into my home right now and you commit a crime and you are caught, you would be punished. I was part of a site, a building site. I was part of a friend was building, and because it's not far from my home, I would always go to check in on him and all of that. And the gate man was selling the materials from the building site. He would always sell the rods and all of that. We didn't even notice. Just, the scaffold rods have reduced. Oh, okay, maybe this has reduced. Okay, maybe. And then at one time, the neighbor now said, by the way, watch this guy. Every fortnight, he throws this thing over the fence, and a group of people come and pick it and all of that. It was a sting operation. So guess what? We caught him red-handed. The day we caught him, we did not just catch him. It wasn't just us. We called law enforcement. And we investigated. He now called the people he usually sells it to. Those ones came. They knew he was stealing because, of course, if you're not stealing, you come in through the gate, right? But they knew everything. Like the entire syndicate were caught. Guess what? 2 days after, the police called us to say, and they have been bailed, or please just leave that case. And the allergy, apparently they have some allergy, because when they were being caught, they were saying, no worry, allergy was trying to tell the other one, no worry, allergy will carry us come out. And I'm not even kidding you, allergy carry them come out. And I bet you as we speak, there's no data to show that these people do this. And so the very next person would be, it will continue. And it may seem like little things, but millions have gone into these issues. It's very unfortunate when we allow crime. It's very unfortunate. And it's not just you and I that will be affected, our families will be affected. So if we stand against crime, if we name and shame criminals, even in those in high places, and that's another irritating part of our, unfortunately, democratic journey. We speak very loudly about having the policy, the whistleblower policy, become an act in this country. I mean, why not? Why not? So there are lots of challenges we often face. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was so detailed. Thank you. At this point, I will just move on to my host. So I believe she has some other questions for you. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you.
Looking forward, how do you see the Nigerian media landscape evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? What emerging trend do you anticipate will, shape this industry?
Oh, technology, absolutely. We would see what we call like the usual TV would be something different. It will be faster, it will be more innovative. We have a population of young people whose attention span is as small as this. If you're not entertaining me now, you are out. And so news broadcast, news reporting will not be as like it's always been. In 5 years, oh my goodness, it has to be on the spot. And then there's more demand to telling the story as it should be, because everybody is vocal these days. So you will not tell the story in a way that puts me in bad light when I do not deserve it. I will come for you. So there's more responsibility to tell proper stories, to tell stories more in-depthly. Recently, I just realized there's a trend. If I want to blow on social media, I would reflect what the society is thinking. And that is how it's supposed to be. That's what journalism is. What are the masses thinking? What do they expect of government? What do they expect of their church? What do they expect of their schools? What do they expect of everything? So it will be a kind of landscape that reflects more of where the people's head is at. I would also use this opportunity to say it's unfortunate sometimes when you see the kind of content that's so readily available on this media space, where all sorts of obscenities and all sorts of very vulgar things happening. And you ask yourself, I don't want my 12-year-old in the internet because of the kind of things that are here. I don't want my teenager exposed to this. I mean, not just yet, of course. So while that has to be curtailed, parents have a lot to do with that. I would also say when it comes to proper media, news is going to be changed. And if you notice, there's already a trend where it's gone are the days where the boring news, where you sit down and you read news and tell people what they want. No. People are asking questions, and because, like I said in the beginning, everyone has become a journalist recently. Yeah, everybody now is a journalist. Everybody is talking about one thing or the other. The onus is more on some of us who actually trained, who are trained and practicing to be different. While you may go to town and whatever you do is journalism, I would have to follow the ethics and principles that guide, while also infusing that innovation that has become a part of our lives. So yes, I will tell you that by all means, it will be a beautiful one with so much innovation that a lot of us would be forced to embrace. And if you want to break even, there's no space for traditional media any longer. You must be forced to embrace it. You may not necessarily be in the studio. News. Look at you and I. We're having news conversations, engagements, interview sessions. You are not in the studio. I'm not in the studio. But the conversation is just as rich, and that is what I see in future, where importance is put on what we are seeing. It's no longer aesthetics. You must sit in a studio, wear a suit. These Gen Zs have no time. Oh, the Gen Alphas are even worse. They have no time for all of that. They want to hear what's going on, and they want it fast, and they want it relatable, and they want it contemporary and trendy. So we will be forced to change the landscape to accommodate the technology and the advancements that will come, in 5 years or 5-10 years rather.
The Female Journalists Network Nigeria FJNN cordially invites you to the International Women's Day Conference and the step down of the 69th session of the Commission on the Status of Women 2025. Theme: For All Women and Girls. Right, Equality, Empowerment. Date: March 25, 2025. By 11 a.m. Venue: Nigerian Army Resource Center, Abuja.
At SkyMaxi Global Sourcing and Distribution Company, we render professional help to our clients to locate factories, get competitive prices, follow up on products sourced inspection, ensuring quality and express product delivery to our clients. We are your direct connection with fully vetted factories in China. We also mine mineral resources in Nigeria and have the license to export to all the world.
OIC Solar is the best and trusted solar company.
OIC Solar. We do solar for your home, solar for your office, solar for your schools, street lightings and more at OIC Solar. OIC Solar.
OIC Solar is built on quality, durability. A top-notch solar company for your office, homes, schools and more.
OIC Solar. You don't need to worry, we got you covered at OIC Solar. OIC Solar. OIC Solar.
Welcome to Bridge a Freak magazine's official site, the ultimate link you need in order to understand what it takes to do business in Africa, the land to which all roads in the modern business world lead. Every business sector in the world is rooted in Africa, directly or indirectly. Mama Africa, the cradle of mankind, has always been the source of life and illumination to the rest of the world.
Through this magazine, we show you the beauty of Mama Africa and the diversity of the potential opportunities that await you as an investor, a tourist, or simply an explorer. The core team at Bridge a Freak is made up of young, dynamic African professionals residing in Africa as well as out of Africa in other continents. We work in close collaboration with partners all around the world to bring the latest information.
Our goal is to be a link to an emerging Africa, the new hotspot for business deals and all sorts of investments. In the business world of today, all roads lead to Africa, and we are proud to be the bridge. Relax and enjoy the fun as it wows you with all the information you have never read before in other magazines. Pray along with us and feel free to comment all your results via this medium.
Bridge a Freak Magazine is the award-winning and globally respected publication for authoritative information regarding business potentials and opportunities in Africa of interest to China and beyond. Your business doesn't get to Africa if it's not on Bridge a Freak Magazine. We are the official magazine of Ethiopian Airline. What are you waiting for? You can contact us +861 391894 3324. Your business is next in line.
Yes, so now, okay, moving on to the Women's Day workshop. All right, so could you elaborate on the key topics and the thematic discussion that will be covered during the workshop? Like, what's that won't be?
Okay. I am excited. I'm excited about that. So we are having an international day. We've been having an annual international day workshop conferences where women, last year, for instance, we talked about women coming together to amplify the voices of women in the media. And we also, at that conference, launched a female genital mutilation pamphlet, something that we distribute in schools to ensure that young girls understand why that trend must not continue, why traditional birth assistance, understand why it's dangerous and all of that. But this year, most importantly, I will be in New York in a couple of days to attend the Commission on Status on Women. And what's the point of doing a conference, then travel, return? So much has been taught and learned, and you don't impact. So the whole idea of this workshop is we would have to break down what happened in New York. The world is all converging in New York as we speak. Today, I felt so bad. I hadn't traveled. My friends are all in New York, and they were sharing pictures of the Secretary General's speech to women, addressing women around the world. That is the structured plan. That is a structured guideline to women advocacy so far, women empowerment programs that we would have to take this year until next year March, when another one is taking place. This year, the world is looking at equity, rights, and empowerment of women. or equality, rights, and empowerment, potato. However, it's interesting to know what the implementation strategies are. As an NGO, how are you going to ensure that you are positioned properly to fight for the rights, empowerment, and equality of women? And that's the step. It is a serious step down. I'm really happy to announce that the event is in collaboration with the United Nations Information Center. And I am happy to also say that we have the UN women interested in it as well. So it's exciting. These are individuals that will break it down for CSOs in Nigeria, break it down for female journalists, or rather journalists, because when we have some of these events, I must mention that it's not just for female journalists, because what's the point in getting the female journalists doing the right thing, so to speak, right? And then the males are it means it's not a balanced initiative. So the journalists that will come will get to learn about what the CSW is about, the conversations that characterize the CSW, the implementation strategies would have to be formed, because I also have government officials, I have policymakers, I have some legislators who are going to be part of this event. So it's exciting. I'm excited that for once we are having this event back here, bringing down what we have been told, the resolutions from New York.
Will this event be accessible online through live streaming or recording?
Oh, absolutely.
Collaborate to contribute to
absolutely. It's hybrid. Yeah, it's hybrid. I even have some speakers that are going to address the attendees from the US. So it's hybrid. We are going to have attendees. And we're going to have individuals join us from all over the world, because it's hybrid. I'm excited. Yeah, contributions will come from all over the world. Questions will be asked from all over the world. But above everything, for now, my sentiment is for the Nigerian NGOs and civil society organizations and participants who would be there. That's where my head is at. I know there will come a time when we'll be doing this internationally. That's a dream of mine. Maybe not internationally, but I'm really concerned about Africa, concerned about Nigeria, and we must align with global tenets, so that we are not, look at our world, we are not isolated at all. So we need to align and ensure that even though we align with the idea, we have to be relatable to our African, to Africa, to what is conversant with us. We are not going to adopt word for word. If it is not a problem Africa is facing, for instance, then what are we doing? But we would align whatever we have, the resolutions we have, with the problems Africa is facing, and develop implementation strategies that would cater for the African challenges that we have.
Really beautiful to hear you talk. I feel so inspired from all that you have said, talking so proudly, so intellectually, and very confident. So now, like you said everyone is a journalist, everybody's telling stories and all of that. So now, for those that want to take journalism as a career and are upcoming, what will you tell them? What will be your advice to them?
That it is a very exciting sector. It's beautiful. So my alma mater is NPA, right? That's where I started. I honed my skills. The beauty, the first thing that came to mind working in NT, and I had a wonderful general manager, Madam Oyeyemi. Bola Oyeyemi. So immediately I came, the day I started, I came as an intern. The very first day I came, I introduced myself. She was like, okay, let me see what you can do. Follow the cameraman, go and do vox pop. the very first day I was in NTA. So I was like a kid in a candy store. And immediately I held my mic the mic is an identity you cannot play with. Immediately I held my mic and I approached anybody, they corrected themselves. If you were not wearing if you're not properly dressed, you start adjusting. It gave me, I felt so good that people know that I am here with a camera, and because I'm here with a camera, they have to behave. So I, over the years, now learned that as a journalist, there's nothing stopping me from talking to anybody I want to talk to. Anybody I want to talk to. Because society understands the role I play to ensure that you're protected, everybody is protected. But if you stifle my protection or another person's protection, it would affect you later. We are all here to positively change the narrative, to ensure that we drive that kind of positive change. It's in our hands as journalists. So if we see ills into society, we must speak up without fear or favor. And I will tell you that I understand when journalists shy away from certain stories because, frankly, am I going to be protected? Do I trust law enforcement enough to say, you know what, my right as a journalist is being trampled? I am calling law enforcement, and I am sure that law enforcement is going to help. So I understand that, but we must try our best at all times to ensure stories are told, to ensure that ills in society is exposed, to ensure that everybody who is who is saddled with the responsibility to drive change is indeed driving change. I had a conversation with someone one time, and he's like, "You shouldn't talk to your resource person like that." And I am respectful at all times. And so when he went that route, I knew I was touching a nerve. And it was around this issue of palliatives. I could not for the life of me understand why you think palliatives solve all problems in life. What happens to technical schools that would ensure these young people who we are constantly and daily recording a huge number of out of school children, we're recording a huge number of unemployed children. The other day I read about 7 million jobs that were lost, rather MSMEs, micro and small medium enterprises, that folded up in a year because of the harsh economic infrastructure in our country. That's a very unfortunate number. And I'm wondering, how do you sleep at night if you're saddled with the responsibility to ensure ease of doing business in the country? And you want me to, what kind of respect are you asking of me? But if I do not position myself like that, I'm always going to be reporting worse numbers. So the responsibility is on all of us to ensure. And I always tell journalists that love your life. I love mine. I don't want to step on toes that to the point where it affects my life. But any opportunity you have, put it out there. And I am so happy that there are several civil society organizations that will not only help you push this narrative. All you have to do is align. They will protect you as well. So these are tools that we constantly engage in to ensure journalists are aware that tools exist that protects them. Journalists should be aware. Where would you look at? For somebody like me who, while I am interested, I focus a bit more in my reporting on climate change and women rights and all of that. I love to do everything. It will be difficult to put me in a box. I want to be talking community rights. I want to be talking the economy. I want to discuss. So if you put me in a box, I will not thrive. But I have focus. But we must be positioned at all times to be fearless. If a leader cannot die for his people, like Like it's always often said, a leader cannot die for his people. He's not a leader. And we are all leaders in what we do to ensure that the stories are told, people understand policies of government. And that's what's been exciting me. One of the things I like to do is awaken the consciousness of the society, people. I stumbled on something a couple of years ago that changed everything for me. The people are the table. If the people stand up, the table is not going to shake, it will break. But the people do not even know the responsibilities they have. Imagine for a moment if a house of assembly member is coming home and the people are like, the bill we asked you, the bill you supported does not reflect our choices. But we don't get that because these lawmakers do as it pleases them, because we don't see petitions. People are not as interested in political participation as there should be. Imagine you're coming home and your people are like, I'm sorry, we don't think we'll vote for you any longer, because you're going there presenting bills that do not concern us. The bills do not reflect our needs. Imagine if a constituency does that, whether you voted for him or not. He will sit up. We have no business having 35% affirmative action being denied, even when the wife of the president was in plenary. And heaven and hell did not break loose. I could not believe it. Because you and I, we just shrugged and shook our heads and moved on. 35% affirmative action. Even when the wife of the president was in plenary, begging senators, please, let's have more participation. But what happened? The next election, there were less number of women in the House. That is exactly what we come off here saying constantly. We cannot afford not to participate in political happenings and governance. You cannot afford to, because your daughter is going to be affected. Your sister-in-law, even if you don't have a mother, your sister-in-law is going to be affected. Somebody you know is going to be affected. So we must, and that's one thing that true journalism should awaken, that consciousness for societal change.
I must say, I've got real value from, engaging in this evening. I've learned a lot. I've been exposed to a lot, and I'll make sure I follow up with that, workshop. I believe I'm going to learn some. Thank you so much for, being on set with us today. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. So I've come to the end of this interview. I hope that some other time we'll get to,
Absolutely.
and
I'm
have
here.
another interview. Thank you so much and have a blessed evening.
And you too have a wonderful evening.